Every day, America consumes over 200 million eggs. And for most people, eggs are easy to enjoy. They're high in fat, they're an easy source of calories, and they're relatively cheap. But not only are they not a health food as they're advertised to be, what the egg industry is hiding and doing is absolutely shocking. The egg industry has done an impeccable job keeping us in the dark, especially with the hundreds of millions of dollars they've put into clever advertisements and campaigns promoting eggs.
There is no better start to the day than eggs for breakfast.
And I've done some research before on this industry, but there is no video on the internet yet exposing in full detail what the egg industry is hiding. And that is what I'm about to share with you. Now, there will be some graphic content in this video, but this is the truth that the egg industry does not want you to know. So the first thing is that almost everyone is under the impression that chickens lay eggs no matter what. So it's not wrong to eat eggs. When in reality, hens in the egg industry today have been genetically manipulated and bred to lay 200 to 350 eggs per year. Whereas naturally, in the wild, hens that have not been genetically manipulated will only lay about 12 to 13 eggs per year for the purpose of reproduction. Similar to how female mammals, including myself, have a reproductive cycle and ovulate about 12 times a year. And while all the hybridized egg-laying hens today are descendants of the wild red jungle fowl, which laid about 60 small eggs a year, that's still nowhere close to the 300 plus eggs that today's hens have been hybridized to produce. By interfering with the natural brooding process of a hen protecting and nesting with her eggs by constantly taking them away, her body instinctively responds by producing more eggs. As soon as stimulating continuous egg production was recognized as profitable, the exploitation and genetic manipulation of hens began. And alas, the egg industry was born. And unfortunately for hens, the process of producing and passing an egg is a delicate and labor-intensive reproductive process, which occurs in the oviduct, a long complex tube made up of 5 different sections, all of which play a specific role in the stages of egg development, which can take up to 26 hours. The physical repercussions that hens face constantly laying eggs is devastating. You see, as a hen's egg is designed to develop into a baby chick, it requires much nutrients, especially calcium, to form the shell. In order to produce an eggshell, a hen must mobilize approximately 10% of the calcium stored in her bones. A leading industry journal, Lancaster Farming, stated, "For yearly egg production, a hen will use a quantity of calcium that is greater than her entire skeleton by 30-fold or more." This is a main reason egg-laying hens are commonly afflicted with weak and broken bones, debilitating osteoporosis, and even paralysis, as their bodies lose more calcium to continuously produce eggshells than they can assimilate from their diets. A great number of hens in the egg industry also suffer from fatty liver disease or fatty liver syndrome due to their liver cells working overtime to constantly produce the fat and protein required for egg yolks. Cage layer fatigue is another common condition that industry categorizes a bird as having cage layer fatigue when she becomes too weak or fragile to stand. Hens whose bodies are too weak to pass another egg are referred to as egg-bound. Eggs stuck in the hen's reproductive tract, known as egg binding, infection from broken eggs inside their body, egg yolk peritonitis, prolapses, and ovarian cancer from hyperactive, rapidly aging reproductive systems are all common conditions and causes of premature death for today's egg-laying hens, even ones who are rescued from the egg industry and given a chance to live free on a sanctuary on green grass and in the sunshine. And while a chicken's reproductive cycle and a woman's reproductive cycle is not exactly the same as far as physical exhaustion and depletion goes, for the girls out there, you could kind of compare what egg-laying hens go through to what it would be like to be forced to have your period almost every single day of the year. For aliens to eat on toast. Anyways, the next thing that the egg industry does not want you to know is that despite their behavior seeming to be merely instinctual and biological responses to stimuli, chickens are social, sensitive, and intelligent creatures. Scientists have discovered that chickens have sophisticated ways of communicating, including over 25 specific communication calls, and they use signals to convey intentions. As reported by Scientific American, studies have shown the unique communication skills of a chicken is on par with some primates. And their intelligence, as far as memory, behavior, communication, and complex problem solving, has been ranked by scientists as above some average toddler's intelligence. Karen Davis, researcher and president of United Poultry Concerns, reported that chickens have an inherently social nature, as well as strong memory and emotion, which influences their social behavior. Chickens also have the ability to successfully form affectionate bonds with other species, recognize others by their facial features, empathize with individuals in danger, and even mourn the death of other birds. And chickens are the closest living relative to the T-Rex, which gives them that prehistoric look. But just because their eyes are kind of T-Rex-ish and they make sounds that you've heard in Jurassic Park, doesn't mean they don't feel pain, loss, grief, and joy like other animals.
Good girl.
Which makes this next part even more disturbing. Standard conditions on egg-laying farms are atrocious. Nearly all egg-laying hens in the world, especially in America, live on factory farms in long, windowless sheds containing rows of stacked battery cages. Up to 10 hens are packed together in one wired cage, often unable to even spread their wings. Standing on wire floors, hens commonly suffer from foot and leg maladies, injuries, as well as feather loss due to physical and psychological stress. And it's completely standard for some reason to have 125,000 hens in one shed. And so, as you can imagine, the crowded conditions and accumulated feces creates a buildup of toxic gases, especially ammonia. And because of this, eye infections, viral infections, and upper respiratory tract infections are very common in egg-laying hens. Sadly, these wretched conditions are the most profitable for the egg industry, as the cost of adequate care for tens of thousands of hens, as well as sanitation, space, and enrichment, can cut a huge chunk into profits. And even on organic free-range farms, it is standard practice to debeak chicks using a razor blade, hot blade, or infrared laser at temperatures of up to 1,500 degrees Fahrenheit. As confirmed by the USDA Livestock Behavior Research Unit, a chicken's beak is a complex functional organ with extensive nerve supply, including receptors which sense pain and noxious stimuli. As a result of this procedure, many birds are unable to eat because of the pain and die of dehydration, starvation, or a weakened immune system. Other observed behavioral evidence of pain as a result of debeaking includes reduced pecking behavior, reduced activity and social behavior, and increased sleep duration. According to Dr. Cheng of the USDA Livestock Behavior Research Unit, following beak trimming, several anatomical, physiological, and biochemical changes occur in cut peripheral nerves and damaged tissues. There is a considerable body of research demonstrating the emergence of several markers of acute and chronic pain, including persistent lethargy and guarding behaviors, reduced feed intake, and development of neuromas as a result of beak trimming. And it is almost always done without any anesthesia. Mutilating the beak prevents birds from their natural responses to stress, such as plucking out their own feathers. And this is an upside for the egg industry because the less damaged their body is, the more valuable they'll be to send off to slaughter when their egg production declines. And as today's egg-laying hens rapidly lose nutrients and calcium to constantly produce eggs, they have a natural tendency to consume their own eggs as an attempt to replenish that nutrients. And of course, mutilating the beak also prevents this behavior, which is another upside for the industry, because those eggs are for sale. In order to meet the global demand for eggs, hundreds of millions of chickens are bred into existence, but about half are born male. And since male chickens, or roosters, do not lay eggs, and egg-laying breeds do not grow fast or large enough for economically ideal meat production, they are simply discarded. They are either ground up alive or discarded in garbage bags where they die of suffocation. In other cases, thousands of male chicks will just be dumped into large dumpsters. This is standard practice in the egg industry. One of the most shocking facts I uncovered is that it's pretty standard to starve hens in order to shock their bodies into a rapid egg-laying cycle, According to the US Department of Agriculture, at any given time, over 6 million egg-laying hens in the United States are being systematically starved in their cages. You see, after just about 8 to 12 months, the hen's egg production will start to decrease. And in order to increase profits, or when the cost of replacing the hens is not profitable, birds will be forced to endure as many last rounds of heavy egg laying as they can. And so they are put through a process known as forced molting, which involves starving the hens for up to 18 days, keeping them in the dark, and denying them of water. This shocks their bodies into a rapid, intense egg-laying cycle, which for the industry is great because we don't have to feed them and we get more eggs. To trigger the physiological shock of forced molt, a University of California poultry researcher Donald Bell recommends the removal of all food for no less than 5 days and as long as 14 days. You see, this allows egg producers to get the most eggs out of their hens, or as they say, the best bang for their buck. Of course, many birds die during this process, and those who live are often forced molted 2 or 3 more times. Animal scientist from Scotland, Dr. Peter Dunn, states that hens in the United States are forced molted until their combs turn blue. And the newest form of forced molting to achieve the highest egg production from hens is done by just feeding them nutrient-deficient filler food. This is not a legal problem for egg producers, because like all industrial farmed birds, hens are not protected by the Animal Welfare Act or the Federal Humane Slaughter Act. The natural lifespan of a chicken is 10 to 20 years, but in the egg industry, most hens are killed at just 1.5 years of age. After an average of 12 to 16 months of rapid egg production, the hens are classified as spent hens and are disposed of or sent off to slaughter. They usually end up in canned soups, chicken pot pies, or other chicken products in which their bodies can be shredded to hide bruises and deformities from consumers. Even on the highest quality, humane, organic, and free-range farms, when a hen's egg production decreases and it is no longer profitable to keep her alive, she will be killed, and her flesh will be sold. For the tens of thousands of hens that are too deformed, do not have enough muscle tissue, or are already dead, alternative methods of disposal include grinding the birds alive, gassing them, or dumping them into landfills. Again, chickens are not protected by the Humane Slaughter Act. In one notorious case of cruelty in February 2003 at Ward Egg Ranch in San Diego County, approximately 15,000 spent egg-laying hens were tossed alive into a wood chipping machine to dispose of them. Despite outcry from the public, the district attorney declined to prosecute the owners of the egg farm, calling the use of a wood chipper to kill hens a common industry practice. The egg industry also uses the Jet Pro system to turn spent hens into animal feed. As described in the farm journal Feedstuffs, company trucks enter egg-laying operations, pick up the birds, and grind them up on site in a portable grinder. The ground-up hens are then put through Jet Pro's extruder texturizer, the Pellet Pro. The processed pellets made up of dead hens are then sold to be fed to livestock, including cows, pigs, and other hens. As you may have guessed, the environmental impact of eating eggs is not so good either. Breeding, raising, and exploiting hens for their eggs is a massive waste of resources. It takes approximately 3 kilograms of grain in the form of chicken feed to produce just 1 kilogram of eggs. But it's not only food or grain that's wasted, it takes an average of 200 liters of water to produce just 1 egg, which means it takes approximately 2,400 liters of water to produce a dozen eggs. This is mainly due to the intense amount of water that is used to grow all of the grain that is fed to the hens. And as you can expect, when you're raising hundreds of millions of chickens, you're going to have hundreds of millions of pounds of feces. According to the National Resources Defense Council, pollution from livestock farms seriously threaten ecosystems as well as human health. As I've mentioned in my other videos, the fecal waste of cows, pigs, and chickens raised for us to use and consume has already contaminated 35,000 miles of rivers in 22 states and contaminated groundwater in over 17 states. But are eggs even really healthy? Right behind chicken consumption, egg consumption is the second leading cause of salmonella poisoning in the world. The FDA estimates that 142,000 illnesses each year are caused by consuming eggs contaminated with salmonella.
In 2010, a salmonella outbreak sickened more than 1,900 people. Federal food safety officials traced it back to several big egg farms. But Hillendale's then president refused to answer any questions.
I respectfully decline to answer the question based on the protection afforded me under the Fifth Amendment.
And now that we're talking about salmonella poisoning, I might as well mention that a chicken only has one hole, called a cloaca. Her poo, pee, and eggs all come out of the same hole. Yeah, safe. And according to the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, recent studies suggest that egg consumption can contribute to heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. Studies have also found consuming eggs significantly increases carotid artery plaque buildup. In fact, the USDA has actually prohibited the American Egg Board from advertising or referencing eggs as healthy or safe. That's right, the American Egg Board is not legally allowed to advertise eggs as healthy or safe, because they're not. But they are allowed to say things like they make you feel full and hire celebrities like Kevin Bacon to promote eggs as something awesome and cool.
You know, I love the smell of eggs in the morning. Could you pick up some more eggs?
You see, the egg industry, as well as the rest of animal agriculture, has been receiving generous subsidies from the government for decades. This is what gives them all this advertising money to wedge their way into the education system, TV, billboards, media, magazines, medical professionals. They have a whole lot of money to creatively convince people that they should eat more eggs.
You do everything so they're at their best. So start their big days with the incredible protein. Eggs.
Every year, the American Egg Board, whose mission is to increase demand for eggs and egg products, sets aside $10 million for promoting eggs.
That's why we recommend starting your morning with eggs every day.
And as the truth about the egg industry continues to be brought to light, the advertisements and campaigns will continue to get more creative and more clever. You will see happy farmers, happy chickens, and cool celebrities, all in the name of increasing egg sales. Don't fall for it. Just like the meat and dairy industry, the egg industry is a profit-driven business, and its advertisements have one goal: to keep you as a loyal customer. And you may be thinking, what about organic and free range? Part of the industry's deceptive marketing to make people feel more comfortable with exploiting these creatures is the rise in free range and cage-free labeling. Did you know that keeping 20,000 hens in one shed still counts as free range? According to the USDA, to have a poultry operation certified as free range, producers must demonstrate to the agency that the poultry has been allowed access to the outside. This can mean as little as one small opening in a dark shed of 20,000 hens. Furthermore, egg producers are allowed to print images of happy hens on green pastures onto egg cartons, even if their hens are actually living in tiny, dark cages. For example, just this June of 2015, the Humane Society of the United States released an undercover investigation into one of Costco's egg suppliers, whose egg cartons display imagery of happy hens in the grass. Their investigation revealed thousands of hens crammed into tiny battery cages. Many were suffering injury, illness, severe feather loss, as well as dozens of decomposing dead birds. Similar cases have been uncovered by activists, including Animal Liberation Victoria, who exposed this free-range egg facility. Even in slightly better conditions than that, the reality is that almost all cage-free and free-range hens are still deprived of most natural behaviors, space, fresh air, and the experience of nesting with her eggs and having them hatch into baby chicks, which she raises and has a family with. And while authentic free-range organic farms may be a lesser evil and provide hens with better living conditions, on every egg farm, the birds are still ultimately treated as property to be exploited and generate profit. Supporting any sector of the egg industry remains in support of the genetic hybridization, manipulation, and breeding of hens for the overproduction of eggs, their physical stress, pain, mutilation, the discardment of male chicks, and the eventual disposal or slaughter of the egg-laying hens. We have literally taken the reproductive system of another being and exploited it for our habits, convenience, and desires. We have enslaved them for their eggs, and they are discarded of when their bodily functions are no longer generating us value. Supporting the egg industry is supporting the immense exploitation, violation, and violence towards innocent, sensitive creatures. Ultimately, the egg industry is the meat industry, and it is cruel. You may be wondering, what do I eat instead? Eggs, just as all other animal products, are high in fat and protein. So when you're transitioning to remove eggs from your diet, fried or gourmet tofu is a great replacement for eggs, especially in stir fries, Chinese food, Thai food, or when you're craving that protein-dense fix. There's other options like avocado on toast with coconut oil and seasoning. And incorporating sources of vegan fats and vegan protein into your diet will help you to replace eggs. As far as baking goes, there are many egg replacers that you can buy at the grocery store, and also tips online on how to use banana, applesauce, or ground flaxseed to replace eggs in baked goods. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and please share this video with family, friends, your classroom, and on social media. We need to get the truth out there. Because as Dr. Seuss said, unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not.